Manhattan, October 1779, 3 a.m. Robert Townsend, merchant, 25 years old, sits alone in his room above the shop. In his hands, a quill, common ink, and beneath the table, hidden, the vial of invisible ink that could kill him. Downstairs, British soldiers drink his beer. They laugh. They talk too much. He has memorized everything. Regiment numbers, ship movements, generals' names. Now he needs to write. But every word is a gamble. If someone climbs the stairs now, if the ink doesn't dry in time, if anyone suspects, he looks at the window. He could burn it all, go back to being just a merchant. No one would know. No one would judge him. His hand trembles, not from cold, from fear, because he knows. The moment the quill touches the paper, he stops being Robert Townsend and becomes a dead man who hasn't been discovered yet. 1778. George Washington commands the Continental Army. But there's a problem no strategy can solve. He is completely blind. New York, the most important city of the war, the strategic heart of everything, has belonged to the British since August 1776. Inside it, 25,000 redcoats, the largest concentration of military power in the Western Hemisphere. British warships control the harbor. Supplies arrive from Europe. Orders are sent south, north, and Washington. He knows nothing. He doesn't know how many ships docked yesterday. He doesn't know if troops are being sent to attack him. He doesn't know what the next move will be. He is fighting the largest empire in the world. Blindly. How do you win a war when you can't see the enemy? When every decision is a guess? When you move troops without knowing if you're walking into a trap? Washington tried before. He sent spies. All failed. Nathan Hale, 21 years old, captain, volunteer, crossed enemy lines in September 1776. He was captured in less than a week, hanged without trial. His last words, "I only regret that I have but one life to give for my country," became legend. But the mission failed completely. Hale brought back not a single useful piece of information. He died courageously, and Washington remained blind. Others tried. Others died. With each execution, the British sent a clear message. We know when you try, and we will hang every single one. So volunteers stopped appearing. Who would volunteer for a mission that always ends in public death? And while Washington fights in the dark, inside Manhattan, British generals, Howe, Clinton, Cornwallis, plan. They move pieces on the board, dispatch orders, prepare ambushes, and Washington only finds out when it's already too late. Until in 1778, he makes a desperate decision. If soldiers don't work, he needs something else. He needs people the enemy would never suspect. He needs civilians, common people, who live inside enemy territory, who go unnoticed, who risk not only their own lives, but the lives of their families. It's an impossible gamble, but it's the only one left. Benjamin Tallmadge, 24 years old, cavalry major, receives the order no one should receive. Get eyes in New York, or we lose the war. He cannot recruit soldiers. Soldiers are known. Soldiers have uniforms, ranks, records. He needs something different. He needs people who don't exist in British papers. Common people, invisible. Tallmadge knows what he's asking. He's not recruiting spies. He's asking friends to choose between two versions of themselves. The man they were yesterday and the man they can never admit to being. So he does the unthinkable. He looks for childhood friends. Abraham Woodhull, farmer from Setauket, Long Island. Homebody, nervous, sweats cold when he lies. Caleb Brewster, whaler, hands calloused from rowing, voice too loud in taverns. Austin Rowe, tavern owner, face known at checkpoints, always with the excuse, I need to buy supplies for the business. And Robert Townsend, quiet merchant from Manhattan, the kind of man people forget 5 minutes after looking at him, who serves tea to British officers and no one remembers he was in the room. They accept, not because they're brave, but because Tall Madge has known them since childhood. Because trust built over 10 years weighs more than fear built in 10 minutes. Because there's something worse than dying. Watching everything collapse, knowing you could have tried. None of them knows what they're doing, so they improvise. Tall Madge creates a code, 763 numbers. Washington becomes 711, New York becomes 727. Lady becomes 355. They obtain invisible ink that only appears with chemical reagent. They hide messages in merchandise. They invent signals with clothes hung on a clothesline. Not because they're geniuses, because desperate men invent what they need to survive. The route they create isn't ingenious. It's the only one possible. Townsend in Manhattan. Rowe rides 55 miles. Woodhull in Setauket. Brewster across the Sound. Tall Madge, Washington. 5 men. If anyone breaks, all die. It's not a plan. It's a chain where each link is made of bleeding flesh. And every day they wake up and make the same choice. Woodhull crosses British checkpoints, knowing that if they search him today, he hangs tomorrow. Rowe smiles at soldiers who would kill him if they knew what he carries. Brewster rows alone in the dark, thinking, if I sink, no one will know why. And no one can tell. Not even the person sleeping beside them at night. It's not the secret that weighs. It's looking at your wife over breakfast and knowing, if I die today, she'll never know I wasn't just a coward or criminal. She'll die thinking I betrayed her, and I chose this. Inside occupied New York, there is someone else. In Woodhull's reports to Washington, she appears only once. 355, the code for lady. No one knows who she is, not even Washington. To this day, 245 years later, no one knows. But she existed, and that is enough to change everything. She moves among British officers, parties, dinners, candlelit halls where men in red coats drink French wine and talk too much. Probably from a loyalist family, or pretends to be. She has access no man in the network has, and the British speak freely around her, because she is just a woman, harmless, decorative, someone who serves tea, who smiles, who doesn't understand war, except she does understand, and she memorizes every word, troop movements, attack plans, ship arrivals, regiment names, numbers, dates, everything stored in memory, because she can't write there, can't be seen with paper and pen at a party. So she keeps everything inside her head, and later alone, she passes it on, maybe to Townsend, maybe directly to Woodhull. The records don't say, only that she existed, and that she was always useful to this correspondence. Think of the weight she carries. She betrayed her own social class, her friends, her family, everyone who trusts her. If discovered, she wouldn't be seen merely as a traitor to the crown. She would be a traitor to everything, to everyone. There would be no trial. There would be no mercy for a woman who faked loyalty. Female spies aren't hanged in public squares. They're thrown into prison ships. The HMS Jersey is anchored in the harbor. Everyone knows what happens inside. 11,000 prisoners died on that ship. Typhus, dysentery, starvation, darkness, moans no one hears, bodies thrown into the sea before dawn. She knows this, and chooses to continue. Some historians believe she was captured, that she died on the Jersey, that she never revealed her name, even under torture. Others believe she survived, that she lived to old age keeping the secret, that she died in silence decades later. No one knows. Maybe we'll never know. There are theories. Anna Strong, Townsend's lover, someone close to John Andre, but no proof. Just one mention, a single line in a letter from 1779, and then nothing. Absolute silence. She chose this, chose to risk everything, chose never to be recognized, chose for her name to die with her, if necessary, so that something greater could survive. And today, we don't know who she was. We don't know if she died young or old, if she was tortured or forgotten. We only know she was there, at the most dangerous moment, doing the most dangerous work, and never asked for anyone to know. July 1780. Robert Townsend is in his shop when he hears British officers, confident, talking too loud. We're going to crush the French before they catch their breath. There are moments when all of history depends on a sentence spoken by drunk men. On July 11th, 6,000 French soldiers arrived at Newport, Rhode Island, commanded by General Rochambeau, the first major European aid, the alliance that could change everything. But they just crossed the Atlantic, 3 months at sea, sick, vomiting on the docks, unloading cannons with trembling hands, completely vulnerable. And General Clinton saw the opportunity. Send naval and ground forces, attack now, before they recover, before they build defenses, massacre 6,000 defenseless Frenchmen while they're still vomiting salt water. If this happens, France abandons the war. Alliance dead. Washington alone again. And everything, every letter written in invisible ink, every night rowing in the dark, every lie told at checkpoints, everything disappears, as if it never existed. Townsend knows this message cannot be late, not one day, not 1 hour. He writes in invisible ink, hands shaking, hides it among common commercial papers, passes it to Austin Rowe, and the race begins. Rowe rides 55 miles. Every checkpoint is a gamble. Every British soldier who looks at him could be the last. He arrives in Setauket, leaves the letter in a field rented for cattle. Woodhull picks it up, looks across the bay, black cloth on Anna Strong's clothesline. Brewster has arrived. White handkerchiefs indicate which cove. All of America is hanging on a clothesline, and no one knows. Night falls. Woodhull walks to the coast, hands it to Brewster, and now Brewster is alone. Rowing through Devil's Belt, the icy waters of Long Island Sound. British patrols cross these waters. If he sinks, 6,000 Frenchmen die. If he's captured, all his friends die. He rows, hours, arms burning, ice-cold water splashing, total darkness, just him, a boat, and a wet letter. There's no army here, no brilliant strategy, just a man rowing, and everything depending on him not sinking. He arrives in Connecticut, hands it to Tallmadge, mounted messengers, spaced every 15 miles. The letter passes, horse after horse. July 21st, it reaches Washington. He reads, 6,000 Frenchmen, imminent attack, immediate decision. Washington visibly moves troops toward New York. Makes it look like an attack on the city. Clinton sees, cancels Newport, returns to defend Manhattan. The French survive. They establish themselves. The alliance remains. And no one ever knew how close they came. That the American Revolution was saved by a man rowing alone in the dark, carrying wet paper, praying not to sink. The Culper Ring operated for 5 years, 1788 to 1783. Hundreds of messages, dozens of operation-saving movements that could have ended everything. No agent discovered, no letter intercepted, and when the war ended, they simply stopped. They returned to their lives. Townsend continued selling merchandise. Woodhull returned to his farm, Brewster to the sea, and they never told anyone. There were no medals waiting, no recognition, no speeches about secret heroes. Woodhull died in 1826. His neighbors thought he had been just a cowardly farmer during the war. Brewster died in 1827. Townsend in 1838, at 84 years old, alone, never married. He took the secret to his grave. For 92 years, no one knew who Samuel Culper Jr. was until 1930. A historian named Morton Pennypacker began comparing handwriting. He analyzed old letters, dusty documents, and discovered Robert Townsend, 147 years after he wrote the first letter with trembling hands, and I never discovered. Maybe she died on the prison ship. Maybe she lived to old age, keeping the secret. Maybe she told on her deathbed and no one believed her. No one knows. They saved the revolution and chose that no one would ever know, because it wasn't about glory. It was about doing what was necessary, about waking up every day knowing, today I might die, and choosing to write anyway, row anyway, lie at checkpoints anyway. Robert Townsend spent his final years in silence, and sometimes, perhaps, he remembered that night in October 1779, when he looked at the vial of invisible ink, when his hand trembled over the paper, and when he chose to write, even knowing he could die without anyone understanding why. For us, though Robert Townsend was 25 years old when he started, same age as many people watching this now. He wasn't a soldier, he wasn't a hero, he was a merchant, and every night for 5 years, he chose to risk everything. When it ended, he never told anyone. So I ask you, do you think we today would have the same resilience, the same capacity to do what's necessary, knowing no one will recognize it? Comment below. Is courage something you're born with? Or is it what appears when desperation leaves no other choice? Where are you watching from? Because this story isn't about special people. It's about ordinary people who were forced to choose, and chose to continue, even without glory.
Agent 355 was never identified. A single mention in a letter from August 1779. Then, silence. 245 years later, we still don't know who she was. Today there exists a chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution called Culper Ring Agent 355, dedicated to a woman whose name no one knows, whose face no one saw, who chose to die anonymously. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the trembling hand on the paper, but writing nonetheless.